The climate crisis can feel like this runaway train, just hurtling towards disaster. But what if I told you there was an emergency brake, one we could pull right now to slow the whole thing down? Well, according to the latest research, there is, and it's been hiding in plain sight this whole time.
So let's really dive into this idea. Tackling methane emissions, it's being called the climate equivalent of yanking that emergency brake. It is our single most powerful tool to slow down warming, especially in the short term, and just buy ourselves some absolutely critical time. And here it is. Here's the number that changes absolutely everything. Over a 20-year period, a single molecule of methane traps over 80 times more heat than a molecule of CO2. Now that isn't just some small detail. It's a fact that should completely reframe how we think about the climate crisis.
Okay, so to really wrap our heads around this, we need to understand the fundamental differences between these two gases. It's truly a tale of two very different kinds of climate threats.
A great way to think about this is to kind of give each gas a personality. So CO2 is like a stubborn marathon runner. Its impact builds up over time, and it just hangs around for centuries. Methane, on the other hand, is a full-on sprinter. It delivers this incredibly powerful punch right away, but then it burns out pretty quickly, breaking down in about 12 years. What that means is its warming effect is immediate and intense, but the benefits of cutting it are too.
Right. The official scientific term for this is global warming potential, or GWP. It's just a way of comparing different gases over a set time period. And that 80x number, that's methane's GWP over 20 years. The big problem is, for a long time, policymakers have used a 100-year timescale, which totally masks methane's massive, immediate punch.
So here's the bottom line. What does acting on methane actually get us? Well, the research shows that if we slash our human-made methane emissions by 45% this decade, we could avoid 0.3 degrees Celsius of warming. In a world where every single fraction of a degree can mean the difference between survival and disaster for millions, that is a massive, and more importantly, an achievable win.
Okay, so we know what methane is, and we know why it matters so much. But where is all this stuff actually coming from? Let's pinpoint the problem.
And what's kind of amazing is just how concentrated the sources are. Pretty much all human-caused methane comes from just 3 places. You've got the energy sector, that's oil, gas, and coal at about 40%. Then you have agriculture, mostly from livestock, also at about 40%. And the final 20%, that comes from waste, think landfills. The good news here is that this gives us incredibly clear targets to aim for.
But, the story gets a little more complex when you look at who's responsible. On a per-person basis, the emissions vary wildly. Wealthier countries like Canada and the US emit way more per person than the global average, and that's mainly from their energy sectors. So this isn't just a technical problem. It's also an issue of fairness. Any real solution has to mean the biggest emitters act first and fastest.
So if that's the problem, what about the solutions? This is where the story gets incredibly hopeful. We already have a blueprint for action. The tools we need are fast, they're cheap, and they're ready to go right now.
And here's the part that just blows my mind. A huge number of these solutions aren't just low cost, they are actively profitable. I mean, think about it. When an energy company captures gas that was just leaking out, they suddenly have more product to sell. This literally turns a climate disaster into a straight-up economic opportunity.
So what are we talking about here? Well, for the energy sector, it's pretty straightforward. Ban venting, require companies to find and fix leaks, and capture gas that would otherwise just be wasted. In agriculture, we can improve how we manage manure and use new feed additives for livestock. And for waste, it's all about diverting organic stuff from landfills and capturing the gas that's produced. Seriously, these aren't some far-off technologies. They're proven, they're practical, and they're available today.
So, if the solutions are ready and they're often profitable, what's stopping us? Well, this brings us to the final and, let's be honest, the most challenging part of the story. The real obstacle isn't technical. It's a test of our collective will.
And the core issue is stated so plainly right here. The obstacle is not technology or economics, but political will and enforcement. For decades, powerful interests in the fossil fuel and agricultural industries have fought against this kind of change. It's become crystal clear that just making voluntary pledges isn't going to cut it. What we need is real regulation, finance, and accountability.
Ultimately, this is the choice right in front of us. We can either act decisively on methane and start building a more resilient future, or we can keep delaying and face ever-worsening consequences. The two paths are splitting right now, as we speak.
So why the delay? Well, a few key barriers are standing in the way. A lot of companies either underestimate how much they're leaking or they overestimate how much it'll cost to fix. Sometimes there are split incentives, where the person who pays to fix a leak isn't the one who benefits financially. And, towering over all of it, you have powerful, entrenched interests that just resist change because they profit from the status quo.
At the end of the day, this isn't just about data and charts. It's about people. Sir David King, a leading climate advisor, puts the stakes in really personal terms. He says, "As a grandfather, I do not want my grandchildren to inherit a world where we ignored every warning and squandered every chance." Which really leaves us with this final, provocative thought. We know what to do, we know how to do it, and we know it's affordable. So the question isn't whether the world can act on methane, but whether it has the courage to actually do it.